14 seconds when the beat drops.
I'm not counting.
Yeah.
Hey,
When the beat drops, I'm starting. Okay.
Yeah.
When I hear the bass, I'm starting.
Last time you like blanked out or something.
I did. I was like not going.
I was like, we're like looking at you like.
Where's he at?
Well, I can start. I can start the iPad remotely.
I was like, oh shit.
So are you on?
This whole time?
Are you on right now?
You want me to start it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next time you do it, you get a different color.
Yeah, it's been on the whole time.
Then are you gonna take it?
That's how a cut takes, man. It's 3 minutes segment there.
I'm getting really good at cutting it.
Welcome F3 Omaha to episode 4 of season 2 with your host, Skids and Escobar.
Season 2, episode 4. This one's called Brusier Cruiser because we're not very creative here. And excuse me. We're just copying Doppler's Twitter tag. It's been rejuvenated for Brusier Cruiser workouts this winter.
He's had a
right?
couple glasses.
Only 2. And thanks for joining us here on Between Two Coupons. Skids, 38. Greg Sharp. We're going backwards.
Oh, yeah.
Namarama.
Keysud 39 overtime.
Overtime.
Jerry Jacoby, 48. Retweet.
Retweet.
Jay Hilton, 47.
Two-step.
Brandon Reichs, 42. T-ball.
T-ball.
And Brian Johnson, 41. Doppler.
D-Home 37, Escobar.
Escobar.
So this is a timely topic. I actually am just coming off the Brusier Cruiser Express, and so
Oh, what happened?
in talking to Skids, well, I opened up the hips a little bit too much so that I could chase down Mufasa. That was a bad idea. He's a fast little white boy. No, I'm just kidding. We're over at Dragon's Lair, and he's pretty quick. That guy can move.
I was going to say about him being fast, were you kidding? Or the fact that you were figuring out you're too old to
Oh,
be
I'm
doing
too
that?
old. Yeah. No, this is 40 for sure.
Sprints.
So this was a kind of timely topic because one challenge I had during my 3 or 4 week hiatus was just kind of that mental FOMO and anguish of not being able to be out in the gloom with the boys. And so in talking to Skids, we're thinking like, you know what, we should talk to some of the experts in the field, F3, and see what best practices, success stories we can share, and just how people deal with the Brusier Cruiser. And so to Skid's point, I know F3 leadership partnered with Doppler to bring on this, I don't know, it's kind of a newer concept or rejuvenated concept. You want to talk a little bit about that?
It was reinvigorated, as some people might say, in the gloom.
Right.
I was talking to Tater Tot a couple weeks ago, and we were just discussing some guys who were out or afraid to take a cue or afraid to come out in general. And I kind of mentioned that I just told the guy, I was like, hey, you're not dumping your cue. I was like, let's just knock it out together. We'll just make it a bruiser style where everybody can come and maybe less running, or we want to do an exercise that injures that or hurts that part of your body. And we got together and started talking about what we can do to help not just that one specific guy, but the packs in general. So we invigorated or got the site back up and running, the Twitter account back up and running. So with that, there's more questions, right? What is a bruiser? What is a bruiser style workout? What does that mean, right? Because every person is different, every injury is different.
Yeah.
What you're capable of doing. We've got a guy right now like Chiplets with a torn bicep. We got other guys with some knee issues. So obviously their capabilities at a beatdown are going to be vastly different. It's still a work in progress, and one of the nice things about F3 is you don't have to have the right answer right away. There's usually plenty of guys who are willing to help out and find the right answer. So for right now, what we're just trying to do is give a bruiser certified beatdown coming at you this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever the day is, and talking to those cues and saying, hey, we're not going to be running much at heavy metal, so be prepared and ready to go. Or hey, this one's going to have some running, but not a lot of upper body. So if you can still run, come on out. We're not doing a ton of push-ups and sit-ups and stuff like that. So just kind of figuring out that way, and that's been where it kind of started. And it's just like I said, some infancy stages still, but kind of finding what the best answer is for our packs, because we're seeing a lot of guys pretty excited about the fact that they're being told that there's opportunities for them to come back out, because we fight getting up early anyways, let alone if you get an injury, another reason to hide your house or hide in your bed.
Yeah, motivation.
Yeah, so it's been a good reception so far, but like I said, it's just getting started for the Twitter handle at least. The Bruiser concept's been around for a while.
So basically, it's like a bat signal for packs that may be in the injured reserve who are looking for a good play, I suppose, but perhaps aren't 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And then we've got sites like heavy metal, which are traditionally a non-running, or so if you're dealing with a lower body injury, it's always kind of a great place to start because you know you're just going to go there and not have to move too much. But it's nice for the Qs to also think about what are some modifications I can offer a guy who's got a bad back. What are some modifications I can have ahead of time so that we can maybe have 2 or 3 things in our back pocket ready to go for our guys when they come out there.
That's pretty cool.
We also need to cover what all these gentlemen are professionals at, and why we got them to volunteer to be on an episode here.
So quick intro, who EH do and what do you do professionally?
So Dr. Thunder and Bear Grylls EH'd me back this summer, July 14th, and Top Rope was my first site. So professionally, I work as a PA in neurosurgery at the Med Center. I've been doing that 11 years. I had a prior career as an X-ray tech, and then I also, after graduating PA school, did about 6 years of emergency medicine as well. So did that on a part-time basis. So I've had my fair experience with neck and back injuries and various injuries that come in through emergency medicine. So
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Drew.
Basically, following him around from now on. In case I get hurt.
that's where I can't get it. Hey, thanks. So I'm Jay Helvey again. I'm two-step, and in the last episode, guys talked about how they were all EH by Brazilian or something, and I am in that tree, but Brazilian is like my great grand EH'er or something like that, because I think it went from him to somebody, eventually Toadstool EH'd me, and I should be giving Smash Mouth some props too on the EH, because he talked to me a lot about F3 and coming out. So I credit to them for my involvement. And professionally, I'm a neuroradiologist. I work with T-ball at UNMC, and so I see what happens when your back goes bad. That's for sure, and I can tell you what that looks like on the inside. But a lot of my interest in joining this panel was because I wanted to hear what these guys had to say about injury prevention, right? Because I could use that myself, you know. And I mentioned that to my wife. I was like, I'm not sure how much I'm going to contribute. And she says, well, you know, you've had your own slew of injuries, you know, so you can talk about personal experience,
That's exactly
which
right.
is true. You know, I was a long distance runner. I did a lot of running before F3, and a lot of that. You know, I tapered off, and I was kind of losing all my mojo there because of some injuries. You know, I had qualified, and at the peak of my athletic existence was running the Boston Marathon. But in my training for that, I suffered an IT band syndrome that was just horrific for me. And that affected me not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and stuff. I mean, it was hard to deal with the fact that here I was having just accomplished this dream of mine, and now I go out to try to train to actually run that marathon, and I couldn't do it. You know, I'd go so far, and then things would just lock up, and I'd have to hobble myself home. And then here I am. I know I'm going to have to rest for a while again. I'm going to lose another 6 weeks of training or something like that. And so that was a big part of my experience or whatever. And so I can maybe even speak. I can speak to some things that I know professionally as well as personally, having been a bruiser in my life.
Awesome. Looking forward to that, because I know we had a couple questions on injury prevention and just your experiences.
I'm Jerry Jacoby Retweet. I'm a physical therapist by trade, and I can assure any of you listening, you have neuro in front of your title of some sort, you're wicked smart. So these guys are, I mean, they're like, whatever all the best you guys do, these two guys are way up here. So
Cheers.
Are you talking about just T-Ball's tall, or?
yeah, well, there's height and academic prowess.
Okay,
So, like I said,
clarify. Yeah.
I'm a physical therapist by trade. My each story is a little bit interesting because nobody specifically brought me out. I was just kind of looking at Twitter one night, and I saw Chris Gravel had posted it. And so I knew him from way back. In fact, he was a patient of mine, oh gosh, when he was at Bryan High School. And so I knew him from a long time, followed him through his baseball career, and I saw he was posting on it, and I've always kind of kept in communication with him.
Yeah.
And so I just looked on F3 Omaha, and this was December 26th, and I think I looked at it maybe like the 23rd. I'd gone skiing the week before with my daughter and nearly died because I just was in average shape at best. And so I saw that he was posting it, I think it was a Future. And so the day after Christmas, I went out to it was Oracle, and it was at Aldrich, and posted. And it was a good story. So it was good because it was Dr. Thunder's VQ, and they asked, how did you get your name? And I kind of told them the story, and obviously Chris was still with us, and so they're all kind of laughing, and what the heck kind of name are we going to give this guy? And Khakis retweet. And I said that I followed Gradival on Twitter, and that's just kind of how it came to be. So it's a good story. And so I go home and tell my wife, I said, well, I went to this thing. She goes, well, is that the one where all the names are? And I said, yeah. She goes, well, what's your name? I said, retweet. She goes, are you even on Twitter? I'm like, well, I think I posted 10 things in my life. So, and then from there, you keep watching the handles, and at some point in time, she goes, why couldn't you have been Buns of Steel? Or something like that. So,
Was she talking about your F3 name, or just like why couldn't you?
I think just all around. So professionally, I've been a physical therapist for, I finished school in the mid-90s, and I've been in outpatient physical therapy really since then. So I've seen just about everything that anybody has that's an orthopedic type of thing at some point in time or another, or have had myself.
So I love this because we have a kind of a mix of professionals and kind of folks that are just experienced here in the panel. And so one of the questions that really kind of comes to mind is like injury prevention. What are you doing for yourself just to prevent injuries out in the gloom in the mornings? What's your routine look like?
So for me, I find my best days are the days I pre-run. Even the days I hate to pre-run because there's just days you don't feel like it, But I would tell you, when you come back to the shovel flags and guys are showing up and my body's warmed up, for me that works. It doesn't always work, There's and this goes for everybody, is that there is no one size fits all. I could sit and lay out my schedule, and for another guy is like that's miserable. I'm in pain when I do that particular thing. I find when I start getting really stiff, I've been dealing with a back injury too, so we talked about our injuries that we're trying to fight through, and my back's finally loosening up and I'm getting back to normal. But I was amazed at how much your body, everything is just a kinetic chain. If you've got one spot that's bothering you, how much it tightened up my hamstrings and how much it affected my running stride. And fighting through that was really tough. And honestly, one of the things I keep in my quiver, so to speak, is yoga. I'll go back to yoga, and I really need to make that just at least a once a week thing. But anybody I've ever talked to that's really flexible, that gets through these injuries, relies on that, and it's painful, but I'll go back to it, and it gets to like the tenets of what physical therapy does too, is stretching and mobility and range of motion and doing stuff you're really uncomfortable with, but it just keeps your body in check.
Is there a best type of yoga, like hot yoga, sheep yoga?
No hot yoga, no sheep yoga. I do know a lady who does goat yoga outside of town.
Is that one where they poop on you? Because that one's weird.
I don't think no apples on the back.
Yeah, sure about that.
Yeah, they but more just, you can pull up at 10 minutes.
We're down to 9 subscribers now.
I'm just wondering what the top hot yoga like. I want to be engaged when I yoga.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Maybe some yoga ideas for the guys in yoga just doesn't seem right away. So like if you're like a new guy that's never done a yoga, not the goat pooping one. Like how do you get people out there to do some of these new things that maybe they didn't do in their 20s and 30s or even 40s? Like how do you get guys to do new things now that we're doing stuff that most 40, 50-year-old guys don't do?
Yeah.
It's
for me, it's a little bit easier. I can, if people ask me, I talk to patients all day long. I deal with neck and back injuries and neurosurgery all the time. So 90% of back pain problems that come in, I just tell people, I send them to him. Because in 4 to 6 weeks, 90% of them are going to be better and on their way to a full recovery. And that's, people want to get excited and they've had pain for a week and they want to go get an MRI and they want to freak out. It's like, that's the biggest waste of your money. This is what you need to get back on top of your range of motion, your flexibility, all the things that a first person you're going to send them to is a physical therapist. Unless somebody's really motivated to get better on their own and try stuff. So I tell them, if I don't have exercises for you, or you haven't seen PT, or you don't want to pay to see PT, is go to Google, go to YouTube, look up a 10-minute yoga video. Do yoga for low back pain, and you can find 10 stretches in 15 minutes and knock them out and feel better when you're done. So that stuff's pretty benign. It's cheap and easy, and people can try it. If it doesn't work, they've got other options.
So similar question, all the guys our age. Again, we're doing a lot of things that 99% of men aren't doing anymore. But, you know, sometimes there's cues out there that just want to crush you, and you know, giving guys and our challenge and how we always want to compete. It seems like I'd say most people in F3 have that mentality, type A, whatever. Like, what are some suggestions? Like you said, pre-running, you know, stretching. Like, what are some things we can do that kind of hedge the injury bug? You know.
Well, honestly, I'm amazed there aren't more injuries because you got a group of guys. I mean, seriously, you got a group of guys that are somewhere between 20 to 50 that are in okay shape.
Yeah.
And we're doing something at somewhere between 4:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning when usually you're sleeping, and we all think we're still 20. I mean, every one of us thinks that we can still run fast or hit a tennis ball 100 miles an hour or throw a fastball 90 miles an hour. The reality of that isn't there because we're still fresh in our minds as we can. So I think the key thing is starting slow.
Yeah.
And if you truly come out to your first beatdown on Monday, I probably wouldn't come back on Tuesday. Now, the trouble with that is that that's when you lose the gumption to keep coming like that. So you need to start slow. And then the most important thing in my mind, you know, the yoga's spot on, but getting warmed up.
Yeah.
And this time of year when it's 14 degrees, you sit in your car until 5:27, you see the cue kind of gather on the flag, and then you get out. And then you start running or you start doing whatever. And we do a fair job with our warm-orama, except for khakis when you just go. Firework, yeah. All right, let's go. So I think you really need to say to yourself, okay,
Respect.
when was respect? Yeah, I wore the best for the khakis. So, you know, when was the last time you did something and you think you can start doing that really fast again? And the answer is no, because when you're going to get hurt is when you either get really tired and you've been doing things too much, or when you just start doing something. So I think you need to plan on getting there at least a couple minutes early. And with your yoga comment, I think the one thing I do consistently every day before whatever is I do a down dog, just to get my legs warmed up. I get some shoulder stretch with that too. And you know, it takes just a couple minutes, but really getting there a couple minutes early and putting in the effort to get warmed up is the number one thing. And then I think that when you get done, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just stop and just stretch a little bit too, because you're warmed up, and that's the best time to actually stretch.
Well,
So-
my question to you is like, how important do you feel the stretching is, and then like, do you wish we could see more of that in the exercises?
Yes, but then you kind of lose some of the other things that go with
Sure.
that. So LPC does a great job. He's always got some yoga stretch in his warm-orama.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good.
Yeah.
And so he's probably been the one that's most consistent with doing those types of things. So, you know, if somebody's cueing, I would, you know, I don't want to give anybody advice on something like that, but I'd say if you can take an extra minute to do something stretching-wise, and just bending over and touching your toes or something like that is better than nothing else. But then just not starting your beat down too fast. Let's not start with a 100-yard dash at Coliseum.
Yeah.
You know, that's a bad idea. Now maybe at the end, knock yourself out. But those first 2 minutes, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Easing into it.
That's smart.
Doppler, anything to add on your side?
No, so unlike these guys, I do not work in the medical field. I just was dumb enough to accept running a Twitter account.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was he supposed to?
Yeah, I'm a meteorologist.
I spelled.
I am an EM.
I spelled Zorro wrong.
I have done like EMP equivalent stuff for like 20 years, but nothing close to physical therapy or urology. So I'm like definitely the dumbest one at this table, which is pretty normal for most tables I sit at. So it's actually pretty like right at home for me.
It's a good injury preventive strategy to know what the weather's going to be.
If it's
Yeah.
warmer, that's better.
Know
Yeah.
what to wear. Are you going to slip on the ice?
Yeah, I
Nice.
can tell if you're gonna like.
Wholesome guest panelists, did you have any suggestions to avoid injury?
Drink bourbon.
Can we edit this? A handsome man enters the room.
Right.
No, but honestly, in your experience, so you've been doing it for
Yeah,
long
no.
enough. Like, what do you do?
For sure. A funny thing is, for me, the way my body works personally is I really notice when I take days off. I know you talk about, you know, kind of easing your way in, but things for me, if I stop moving, that's when I kind of feel my body starting to be like, why aren't we moving today? Like, what's going on? Like, if I skip a workout, not only do I have FOMO when I watch all the name and ramos, but I'm like, I'll be sore at work that day while I'm sitting there because my body didn't get its daily movement in. When I first came out to pre-runs, I tried to keep up with some of the fast guys stupidly because I wasn't good enough to keep up with them or fast enough to keep up with them. And then I kind of got faster, but then I started running slow again, like keeping a pace around 10, 30 to 11 minutes, which I know sounds really slow to plague and those other guys, but my body felt so much better. Like you guys have kind of hit on already. Like it felt great to just really ease in, get my body, my muscles moving in a good way that I felt comfortable with, and I wasn't huffing and puffing going into a workout. I could feel good through a whole workout. So for me, like you guys have already hit on, is just easing into a workout, warming up, and kind of finding a pattern that fits your body. For me, it's working out pretty much every day, at least in some fashion.
It's an interesting point. Like one thing that I love about F3 is like, well, two things. First off, it's me versus me, right? Which allows me the mental space to kind of take things as I deem appropriate. And I think the last thing is this idea of like pick up the six, where I know I'm always gonna have somebody that kind of has my back or hang back with me when I'm injured, or maybe taking things slow, which I think gives us some mental freedom to take things slow. Similar question, but two-step thinking on the mental side. Anything that you recommend on just mental preparation for warming up, preventing injuries, avoiding injuries? How do you approach things? You mentioned it earlier about how you've been injured.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that one of your strategies, T-Ball, is to pre-run. One of mine is to not pre-run. Just don't, particularly if you're going to be pre-running with stitches or something like that that you can't keep up with. Because, and no, in all seriousness, it's to understand your limitations. And know which exercises are potentially at risk for you. I've also struggled with some back issues, and I've noticed in my time in F3 that after some asshole Q decides we're going to do a lot of balls to the wall stuff, that my back hurts for about a week.
Any examples?
Othello. If you go to an Othello Q, you're going to have your balls on the wall. Yep.
That's a fact.
Yeah. So
up on the wall, or you just getting your ass kicked?
no,
like donkey kicks up on the wall.
No, donkey kicks
Oh,
and
yeah.
Australian mountain climbers
Oh
and
my
the chicken
gosh.
peckers and this and
Oh,
that
man.
and
Yeah.
stuff. And so I just
bring
I realize that that's those are kind of red flag exercises for me, and it's a little bit tough to be the only guy not doing the thing that everybody else is doing. It's like know when you got to modify. And stick to that. And sometimes I dabble with it. I say, I wonder how I could do, and I try to do a few chicken. It's handy for me that my back doesn't like the balls to the wall sort of stuff, because my shoulders also don't like it, and I was terrible at it when I was trying to do it. But then with my injuries, I just know that when we're going over there, I'm going to have to just modify from the get go if I need to, and things like I remember when we had shut down for COVID. And Sparty, I think, led on your own but not alone exercise recommendation, and there were like 10 100-yard sprints in the beatdown. And boy, I did about 3 of them, and I think I pulled both quads. And it's like so another rule that I have is that I'm not sure what the age limit is, but I personally am too old to sprint. Even when the Q says, now we're going to sprint this far, we're going to sprint so far, or we're going to sprint this way or that way. To me, that means run faster than a mosey. Run a little bit faster than maybe I would want to, but I am not going to try to run at my top level, anything. Unless maybe I could build myself up to that, where someday I could sprint again. But don't just go. If you're 47 years old, don't just go sprint and think that you're 18 again.
Respectably, I'm really good at modifying.
Yeah, good. So those are some of the things that are going on in my mind about trying to just prevent the injuries.
I think that's really good because, with what I do, people always want to know, what can I go back to after I've been hurt? And I there's not one person in this room who I would say a chicken pecker is a good idea to do. And actually, it's not. I mean, you see people have rotator cuff tears, and they're all 45 to 55 years old, and if they're younger than that, they're 35 and they have labral tears. And that's probably the worst thing they can do. Yet here we all are at 5:36 in the morning doing that exercise. So you have to realize that maybe this isn't a good idea for me, and modify that. And that's hard to do, but it's better to be there doing something. Better be doing air squats than it is to be doing nothing.
So what are some good air squats seems like the universal modify, because I don't know what else I should do for 30
Alternating
seconds.
shoulder taps on chicken
I
pecker.
do alternating shoulder taps on the chicken peckers.
Or just Merkins, or
Mount-
just something else.
Yeah, you can do American mountain climbers instead of Australian mountain climbers.
Upper body, lower body, whatever
Yeah,
the target
whatever
is.
they're doing. Yeah.
I'd say with the burpee challenge too, like my back was in a lot of pain, and I actually threw it out twice. One doing blockies and one doing burpees, and I was like, I know I can do a burpee, but the problem is I throw my legs back up to get my feet under me, and I'm gonna throw my back into a spasm. And so I started just going, putting my hands down, stepping one leg back, step the other one back. And to your point, OT, is like, I've seen so many guys modify in different exercises, and picking up the sixth, there's no shame in just saying, nope, not for me.
Yeah.
And I'm well beyond that. The first month it was like you kind of got this bravado, and you're trying to figure out what F3 is, and after a while you just tell guys like, hey, if it's not for you, just, I brought my brother out for one workout. He lives in Norfolk, and he was doing we were doing the 10, 20, 30, 40, you do 4 or 5 burpees, and we were doing that at main stage, and he was a good half field behind us, struggling. He just hadn't done it, and we ran back, and I was like, if you're done doing burpees, just lunge, do something, just keep moving. And it was the same thing. He thought he had to do them. I was like, you don't have to do anything. If this is too much, just walk. Modify it.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And who do we have to talk to get Murder Bunnies outlawed?
No, I got the patch now. I'm all in on that. I think burpees are worse. I've changed my story.
I don't think so.
I think there's no reason for a man to be upside down, just personally.
Ever.
Inverted.
Yeah.
Upside down.
Inverted, fine. So we talked a little bit about the pre-workout. We talked about workout modification. What about post-workout? Any recommendations there? Like any words of wisdom that after the beat down?
Cafeteria.
True. Yeah. Good.
Good.
Rule number 1, cafeteria.
Again, we don't know why Doubler's here, but you guys.
He's right.
One warmed up, fluids.
These kids can only have water from now on.
I would say that if you know you've got something that's a little bit not right, an IT band's a great thing. It's not something that's going to keep you from necessarily working out, but it's going to hurt like heck. So is those shoulder tendonitis. Put a bag of ice on there. And I tell almost all my patients, and especially my kids when they're hurt, if it's not too big, I say, have you iced it? And if they say, no, I don't have time, then I say, well, it's easy. It's cheap, doesn't cost anything. It's pretty effective. A bag of ice across here will take the inflammation out of your shoulder or your knee or whatever. So I think if you've got a little bit of a twinge going on someplace, that's the first thing I tell you to do.
Nice.
Yeah, it's easy. You put on the way to work or something like that, and it works good.
Well, let's pretend nobody knows anatomy, knows what injuries are. What are the 3, 4, 5 most common things you see our age again doing this kind of thing, like IT band? So how would you know you have that? What does that feel like? Go from there. Your back's pretty. Everybody kind of knows what a back injury feels like.
Want me to take this one, guys?
Doppler, your professional opinion as a meteorologist.
Not a low pressure band.
I think IT band is the thing that it's called runner's knee for a reason, right? Because the outside aspect of your knee is this joint between your upper leg and your lower leg.
Thank you.
Right. Right there you go.
Oh, is that the knee?
And this, yeah.
We need a prop.
So there's this really tight band of fascia that runs all the way down there, right? And it inserts or it attaches right below your knee joint, and that can just get all inflamed or whatever and hurt like a mother, hurt bad.
Yeah.
So for me, the ice helped. I mean, that was one thing. I think other thing, just in my personal experience, I've had plenty of injuries. Is calf strains are really common also in people in their like late 30s, early 40s. You think you're going to try to run again, and your calf says, "What's going on here?" And I don't understand. You can tell me if I'm correct on this, because I heard the theory from another physical therapist that obviously as you get older, your connective tissues maybe are not quite what they used to be. And tell me if this is true. That the calf jiggles a lot when you run. Right?
Jiggles, sure.
Jiggles, and when you're older, if there's less firm attachment, there's jiggle more with every step. It's going to be more likely to release the muscle fibers from the bone. The attachment to the bone gets weaker, and then you get a little tear right there at the origin of that muscle up in there, which is maybe a reason why people, as they're getting into middle age, start to develop more. I mean, how many guys have we seen with calf strains? And I suffered with that a lot, also in my own running.
What's the best way to get over that? Because I got one at Zorro's Sprint on Friday, the end of sprinting on the end of the Florida.
Yeah.
But then I went and ran this today because I had FOMO, and it's still tight. I could get through it because we weren't rolling too fast. But
Yeah.
like, what's just rolling it out?
One thing, I tried the rolling and all the stuff and things, but the one thing that helped me with my calf injuries, because they were chronic and recurrent for a few years there, is those compression stockings. Helped me a lot with that, and I don't know if again I keep pointing to you because anytime I say something that just doesn't add up,
You're good.
you let me know.
That's full
But
validation over here.
they're like part of, and I know Smash Mouth dealt with calf strains, recurrent calf strains a lot, and he put on those compression stockings, and then he kept wearing them and wearing them and wearing them. And I think that part of the reason is that they keep your calf up there, and so that jiggle that I talked about with every step when your musculature pulls away from your bone, it keeps it up in there, right? Because the compression stocking up in there, and that actually I believe that helped me. I believe it's possible that was all psychological, but either way, it either did help me or I thought it helped me.
Did you watch Baywatch a lot with Pamela Anderson? Every time you say jiggle running, I thought it was
I've got one for you. What about the hips? What about the hips? I've noticed that hip flexors seem to be a big one
Yeah.
for a lot of guys too. Like, what do you recommend with the hips?
What did you do?
For me, it was a lot of stretching.
Yeah.
For the hips is pre-workout and post-workout, and then a lot of hydration. I feel like, but honestly, it's just rest.
Yeah.
So rest. So say you're resting and okay, do you still come and pose? Guys are in my head. I'd be like, well, if I can't do it, I'm not gonna go out there. Like that'd be my first thought, even though. So
And
where's the middle
that's the
ground?
wrong thing, because what's going to happen is that you
don't just
no
sit.
matter where you are, you've got some level of cardiovascular fitness.
Got
And let's say you've been posting for 6 months or a year or 2 months, whatever the case is, and you're injured, but it's not bad to keep you from doing something. Come and walk, because once your cardiovascular fitness goes down, then everything changes. So when you come back, you're still going to have your mind, well, I was running at a 9-minute pace. I should still be able to run at a 9-minute pace. Well, you've lost a month of your overall fitness, and now all of a sudden 9 minutes is really called like 9:40.
It's that fast, huh?
Well, it could be. Oh yeah, a couple days you can lose what you have. So you have to keep doing something, biking home, walking home, stairs, something like that, yoga, like he said. But the last thing you really want to do is totally stop doing something. So if your hips are sore, do push-ups.
That doesn't help you heal faster.
So the resting
worst
does.
thing you can do is stop.
Avoiding that injured area, but
You can avoid the injured area, but keep doing something else.
Yeah, stay moving.
Keep doing something else. Absolutely.
Yeah, because they had there was a study I think in the early '90s, and you could help me if I'm wrong on this, but they studied people with I think back injuries at the time, and they had them basically immobility and like bed rest kind of stuff for like 3 days versus 7 days, and found that the pain levels were similar in both groups, but the deconditioning in the 7-day group was far above what the 3-day group was, and that's where the paradigm shift used to be. So when people would have spine fractures, other things that they wanted to basically what they brace people for now and say get up, start walking and move.
Right.
They used to just prescribed 6 weeks of bed rest for people. And these people would get up and think about how deconditioned you are. I mean, I tell patients this. I said, if you've been in the ICU for 2 weeks after a ruptured brain aneurysm, every day you're in the hospital, it's about 3 days of recovery that you need to work to get back what you lost for 1 day. So if you've been in the hospital two weeks, you're looking at about 6 to 8 weeks before you physically can even get back to where you were at. And that's ideal. Yeah. That's an ideal situation.
Like Escobar, your dad was talking to us one night and told us, like at our age, even at his age, he was like 1 day, and I feel like I got to start all over. So,
There's something to be said about that, because I remember, so I was out for 3 weeks, and I'm back now, 45 days or so, and I'm still not 100 back to where I was conditioning wise in November. But going back to the question on hips, hips, knees, and shoulders are probably the 3 most common things I hear.
Right.
So
Low back, like
low back.
Low back, yeah.
Low back, traps, neck, plantar fasciitis.
Plantar fasciitis.
That's a huge one, and there's a real easy modification. I have to take my own advice in this. I finally went and bought a decent pair of shoes and get some ad revenue from Solomon Speed Cross.
Right.
I take KOA, gave me advice on that. So, but trying those shoes and just having a proper insole and how much that affects even your calves, just the way your feet feel in general when you go on some of these 3-mile, 4-mile runs, I think is really, really important. And I had old crappy mowing shoes because you're out in the grass and weeds and getting them dirty and stuff. And I just never made that investment. I'm really glad I did.
So this is a good topic. So we're talking equipment, right? So shoes, insoles. We heard compression gear. Anything else from an equipment perspective that every F3 guy should probably have in his trunk at some point?
Being warm,
Yeah.
warm clothes.
And good gloves, because inevitably you're gonna be on the ground at some point in time when you're doing wheelbarrow or just push-ups, so you might keep your hands from getting cut. So, yeah, the shoe. I would go with the shoes. I've got plantar fasciitis right now from running, and I did the same thing you did. You know, you want to wear some old shoes because you want to get a brand new pair of $150 shoes and run with them the first day through the grass. And once you start getting sore someplace from that, it takes forever to recover from. So if you're really gonna put money into something, shoes is the best place to go. You can wear any sweatshirt or any pair of pants, but the shoes you can't. Don't go skimpy on shoes.
Any particular brand that you recommend?
It's kind of like a wife. You have to find one you like and stick with it.
What
So-
about all the fitting programs out there? And I know, is it Fleet Feet or one of
Fleet
these
Feet,
stores that's
yeah.
10% off?
Fleet
or-
Feet
yeah,
does 10%
for you guys?
off for us, and they have like 3D scans of your feet that they can tell you. I just was like, these shoes feel okay, and then I went there 3 months ago or whatever, and they do the 3D scan of your feet. She's like, do you have arches? And I'm like, oh, you tell me. And she's like, yeah, you're like off the charts, my guy. And so now I have new shoes that feel great, and I have
Big arches over here?
Yeah, it's full on St. Louis. It's ridiculous.
Congratulations. That's the first time I've heard like.
Hashtag St. Louis. That's
Yeah.
gonna make the clip.
Yeah.
Are you doing the burpee challenge?
That's
Sidebar.
You know what? I've got other things I'm focused on right now.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Sure.
the cruiser account. You know,
Okay.
focusing my energy there.
Any cues you feel, you know, I always try to get people to name things. So this makes things more interesting.
Hey,
We
go
can tag 'em.
AOs.
Any AOs, cues that you're gonna give a shout out for good warm up, good, 6 minutes of Mary, or if that matters. I haven't heard anybody talking about Mary yet as much, but any cues you think do a solid job of thinking about. I submitted LPC of kind of at least warming you up so that the injury risk.
Wait Time does a really good job of that
Yeah,
too.
he
You
does.
talked about the yoga
Yeah.
stretches. He has some leg stretches and stuff when we start.
Absolutely.
It's like, and I find guys that even when Brad Pitt was in town, Ketchup's father-in-law, his stepfather, he'd come from Atlanta and he said, "You guys count so fast here." He's like, "There's like when you're doing windmills and stuff." And he ran us through a workout at Wild Kingdom, and everything was a slow count, the entire workout, and I was trashed when I was done. And it was just, everything was very slow, almost like Tempo Merkins. Everything was very slow, and you do 10 of those. But his stretches, everything was slow, and the squats were slow. But it was like amazing how much range of motion you felt, and it still taxed your muscles. So I've appreciated when guys do that. It's not this race to get through it, even though your clock's running when you're queuing, because you're like, we got to get all this stuff in. I've got this all laid out. And we got to run to this place and do this and do that. And sometimes it's better to take less and make more of it.
Must be why everybody follows that wait time guide, all the cues. I always have a bunch of people there.
We all look forward to Steinel.
Yeah.
AOs, I think you definitely have a track. Coliseum, Golden Spike, Main Stage. It's just flat, and so that I think it's just I like that flat. You go to Berman, you're like, where the heck am I in this? I love those places, but it's when it's dark outside. I think when you have the lights, it makes it so much easier, and it's gonna be a stable surface all the time.
agree
So
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the inverse of that is the woodshed. When you're in the dark running across Elmwood Park, and there's gopher holes and old trees taken out of here, holes here and there. Everybody's like, you're running across there, and someone's like, "Oh, stick, tree!" It's like calling out all this stuff to avoid.
Right.
Careful.
That's
Careful
Wild
at the
Kingdom
woodshed.
too.
Which takes us back to equipment, proper lighting.
Right. Also,
Also,
having lights.
Yeah.
I think people get reminded. It's also winter, so take corners wide and slow and
Yeah.
small steps and all that kind of.
I mean, ice spots do we see
Call out
this
the
morning
ice,
on the
right?
trail?
Ice.
Guys,
They were-
yeah.
And we love all our AOs, right? Every AO has a different challenge and aspect to it, and kind of a different culture around it. But I think what you're hearing, Pax, or at home listening to this, is if you're on Brusier Cruiser, I think it's an opportunity for us to be intentional about the places we choose to work
Nine
out, right?
subscribers.
Especially if you're trying to hit the 9 subscribers and
Yeah,
5
right.
people
10,
watching.
10. Retweet came.
So I think there's a good opportunity for us to be really intentional about how we prepare, what equipment we're wearing, the locations we choose, maybe the cues that we follow. I love this idea about the slow count. It's such a good point. We just shout out to Obi-Wan was kind of reinforcing that on Friday over at Armory about slow count. So I appreciate that coming on.
That'd be fun to see more of that. Actually, maybe Doppler and I, we got a queue on the farm here Friday. Maybe we can be intentional about that. You know, a lot of them are
You
more.
count slow, I'll count fast.
Okay.
Little
You know,
mix.
because we get into like Smurfs and stuff where it's like rapid. You can barely do a squat, air squat before.
Oh, the air squats are.
It's like people are just doing this
Yeah.
up here.
You're not even doing
Nobody's
a
getting
squat. Douglas County proper all the time, every time. Right? There's a reason why we started that.
Yeah.
Sarby's like, that's not an air
It's
squat.
like a
I don't know what
squat.
you're doing, but that's not an air squat.
You just can't keep up in the South.
Oh,
That's all it is.
So Bruiser
You can't
Cruiser
count that.
tags.
Yeah, I was gonna
Swing.
say. So we've talked about physical aspects of injuries, the mental aspect. Now let's talk about connectivity, and this is why you're here. You know,
Fine,
what
figure it out.
recommendations do you recommend for us to stay connected, for us to stay in shape? You know,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to start, right? We're part of F3, which is not, you know, there's 3 Fs, right? Fitness is just the first one.
Yeah.
The other 2 are fellowship
Oh.
and faith. So you were talking about coming out in a morning where you really feel like you can't do much besides maybe walk around, maybe do a couple Merkins, maybe do Mary with the guys. Well, there's still plenty of fellowship there. You know, there's still plenty of time to. For me, like honestly, there's plenty of mornings I get up and I'm like, I don't want to work out, but I'm like, well, I want to go see my buddies. I want to go see Retweet or see Othello, whatever it is. Like that for me is just as, if not more important. And I think it's a nice way for us to remind ourselves, like we all came for the workout, but none of us stuck around because we want to do a bunch of burpees. Like we can all go to the gym and get in great shape on our own. We can, but none of us are sticking around because of they want to do sprints at 6 o'clock in the morning behind Aldrich Middle School. That's not why we're here.
Right.
We're here to hang with our buddies, grab coffee, see how our friends are doing, check on their kid who just had surgery last week, whatever the case may be. Just remind yourself why you're in F3, and it's not just because of coming to work out.
Right.
And I think if you can keep that in the forefront of your mind, it'll help you stay engaged more. It'll also help you reach out to those guys who you say you care about. Like, hey, show them you care. Reach out, be like, hey man, I'm queuing Thursday at Futurama. What's going on? How's your back feeling? What exercises can you do? Oh, cool, you can do these 3. Let me add those to my queue, right? Let me be intentional with how I write my queue for my buddy, so he can come out with me and we can have coffee and I can see how he's doing. It's really not that hard to just reach out to some of these guys that you know and care about and are invested in, and then just take 3 seconds of consideration and make your workout shaped that way.
So both ways, right? Like if you're hurt, let your buddies know.
Yeah,
So
it's a 2-way street.
Yeah.
For sure.
If nobody knows, they're gonna be like, oh, he's gonna go balls to the wall.
Yeah, where
like
does that
everyone
go?
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that.
and I'm really grateful for my shield lock. I don't know. I imagine all of us here have a shield lock or kind of pseudo shield locks to help keep us connected. Okay, you do too.
I don't have a formal shield block.
Well, so now
I'm
I
here for you, right?
Are you going to announce
I was
it
really
right here?
sad,
Are you
like-
announcing it on the show?
No, I
Am I in your shield block?
I would say informally, yeah. But I think everybody's got a shield lock in some respect. But I think
Make
that,
it
yeah.
formal
I thought
right
that's what
now.
we were to each other.
Is that what
Just say it, guys.
Do you want to? You can make a shield lock together. So.
Yeah.
yeah, but honestly, like the shield lock for me is one thing that kept me motivated, and informing them that I was injured, and them being like, all right, we'll still post, and I'll run a Mojo pace, which is anything that's not 8 to 9 minutes. Which really helped. I know, right?
Greater than?
Yeah, so somewhere 10 or higher was helpful for me. Final thoughts, guys. One at a time. Anything else maybe that you left on the table that you want to share with the packs on this topic?
Yeah, I just talked about the F3 function now. It's not just fitness. The last one will be the Bruiser Cruiser. Twitter handle is at F3 Omaha Bruiser, and it is a work in progress, just like every single one of us sitting here. If you have ideas on how to make it better, things we can improve on, what you'd like to see from it, let me know on the account or through Slack or however, because what we're just trying to do is make sure we find the most effective way to reach out to the widest audience, because that's what we're all here for.
Yeah, and I would say, just to add on top of that, anybody who's queuing, and if you're a PAX member out there, just feel free to reach out to anybody that's queued, that's at a spot that you're going to be at. And like he said, ask, just be like, would you be able to do less upper body and maybe lower body? Anybody's willing to help out. I'm happy to switch all my exercises if it's going to help get 1 or 2 more guys out there.
I love that.
Because it's great to see the familiar faces and stuff, and quite frankly, like, I don't feel like I was robbed if I had 100 less Merkins, you know what I mean? So we just adjust as we need to and modify as necessary. So
I think it's important when you are bruising or whatever happens to you, and you're unable to get out or at least do what you've done before. The most important ingredient in my mind on healing is time. All the other things that we do are what tricks can I have to speed up this healing process that I'd like to do. But in the end, don't be discouraged. With time, most things are gonna get better, right? And you'll come back around. I even when I'm injured, I would like to shorten up that time as much. But don't be discouraged and get yourself to where you make yourself even worse, right? By giving up on all the rest of your fitness, right? And by giving up on the fellowship that we have, like Doppler's just talking about. This idea that guys get together in the morning before starting their day. It's not new. My grandfather was a farmer in Butler County, Nebraska, outside of Ulysses, and that's a town where there were 5 businesses in the town, and 3 of them were bars, and the other one was a coffee shop, right? Because and my grandpa would go to the coffee shop every single morning to see his buddies. And that's what we can have here. And so you come for the fitness, like you said, you get the fellowship, and don't give up on that, and don't give up on yourself and coming back with enough time. Good chance, most of your things, not everything, but most of your problems are going to get better if you give yourself enough time.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you guys, and then certainly you as well, Doppler. I would say, if you do have something that doesn't feel right, most of us know if we have an injury or we're just tweak something. If you feel like something's not right, don't try to push through that, and then ask somebody. Ask me, ask Zorro, ask Theraband, ask one of these guys. There's lots of guys in the group that are very qualified to answer questions. And sometimes you just need somebody to say, just stop doing Merkins. Well, it hurts if I do Merkins. Well, stop doing Merkins. Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. So, and a lot of
it's like the guys need somebody to tell them it's okay.
It's okay. It's right. A lot of things that I see in my practice, I say, gosh, I wish you would have come 3 months ago. We could have avoided surgery. We could have avoided something. So don't wait too long. Ask somebody. Ask your doctor. Ask. Like I said, ask one of these guys. So most time, if you just take some time, make some adjustments, maybe get a little bit of treatment, maybe take some ice on it or something like that, you can avoid something that could turn into something that could really limit you, that could take F3 for a couple months. So don't wait too long.
Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of kind of listening to you guys and kind of taking some notes and some on some of the themes, and a couple things I pulled to the surface are water and hydration, understand your limitations, improving your range of motions and flexibility, warm up, post beat down care. We talked about rest and what that means. We talked about time and staying moving, proper equipment, and then one that just really stood out to me is you made a comment, Doppler. We come for the fitness, but we stay for the fellowship and faith. And I think oftentimes we perhaps may forget that in F3. And then last is staying connected and leveraging your shield lock and in the Brusier Cruiser group. So anything I missed?
We forgot to ask how many times we should go to a chiropractor per month.
Is that a question?
No, I just like to do that to people that are medical professionals. Because usually the 90% of the time there's an answer that I'm trying to get out of people. But I don't know.
I'll give you an answer that you wouldn't expect. So I had a thoracic. I actually slipped. I think it was just like a subluxed rib, and I just had this like paraspinal spasm. And I went to my cousin's a chiropractor, and I was like, don't be yanking me all different directions, but just a gentle adjustment, whatever you think. And he's like, yeah. And they did dry needling as well. And like and I'd been dealing with it for probably 3 weeks, and it was just crazy intense. And within 3 or 4 days, it was completely gone.
Needling, I've heard.
It's insane, and I prescribe it a lot. And I don't know how much you do it in your practice.
We have several therapists to do it. I think it's a very good adjunct therapy to what you use. So absolutely.
Yeah, so
cool.
I just say as appropriate, and if they do it, they do it. But physical therapists see a lot more of that, and they kind of know where it's going to help. It's basically just like trigger point needling to try to release the tension in the muscle. So
very effective.
Yeah, cool.
I was really just seeing if two-step was gonna.
Bite on that.
It's like an MD chiropractor.
There, none of it exists. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for saying that. Do not ever let anyone, whatever their credential is, wrench your neck around anyway. Don't let someone have control of your head and do anything like that.
What happens.
Whatever their credentials are, because if you twist your neck too quick, too fast, the wrong way, you dissect an artery to your brain, and then you stroke.
And we've seen it multiple times.
We see it several times a year from somebody that lets somebody, wrench their neck around. That's the only thing I would say.
Shit.
All other things, you do you. But
Yeah.
if I can make a recommendation, that would be it.
And as a therapist, I have nothing against chiropractors. I've got one that I trust very much. I'm a therapist, so I'm gonna say go see a therapist. But if someone can help you, great.
Everybody's so nice here. Like I'm really been trying tonight. I'm really been trying.
You've been very good.
I've really been trying to instigate. Well, hey, thank you for coming to
Appreciate you guys
panelists.
joining.
You guys are awesome. It really learned a lot today, actually,
Yeah.
from both panelists. But you want to take us
How
out?
about you and your pooping?
I don't think they came up at all.
Yeah, I don't know what it was,
Totally
but
cut.
anyway.
It's cut. It's already cut.
We don't treat that.
Thanks for
This
joining
issue,
us
yeah.
on this episode of Between Two Coupons. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. guys.
Boom.
You guys start the music.
Thanks,
Thanks for having us on,
Thanks,
guys.
That was
You
fun.
guys got this down.
Really